Hello my friends, my name is Michael and welcome to another episode of Magnum Videos. Tonight we're going to go back to 3018 Brooklyn and we're going to talk about eating spiders. So stay right there. I wanted to take you back with me to 3018 Brooklyn in Kansas City, Missouri, a second time to give you a couple of other short stories that I thought you might find of interest. Now keep in mind, I was 5 or 6 years old when all of this occurred, and we're going to start out with a spooky Halloween night. Now, the first year that I was allowed to go trick-or-treating, or the first year I remember going trick-or-treating by myself, was about 1955. I was 6 years old, and my mother gave me a brown paper grocery sack and dressed me up as a hobo, a clown, a pirate, I don't know what I was. But she fixed me all up and told me to go out and go trick-or-treating. So I went outside and I looked for a suitable house that I could start with, and right across the street was a white house that I thought looked fairly inviting. So I walked down the sidewalk and went across the street, went up to the door and knocked on the door. And it was kind of a windy night and obviously dark. And I waited for a few moments, and pretty soon the door opened and I could hear the hinges creak when the door opened. And when the door opened, it revealed a little old lady that looked to me like a witch. She was small and skinny, and probably she looked like 100 years old. I'm sure she wasn't, but for a 6-year-old, anybody over 50 looks really old. Anyway, so she opened the door and she said, "Come in." I thought, well, okay. So I went inside, and it was kind of dimly lit, and you could tell an older person lived there because there was that old person smell, and there was all kinds of antique looking furniture. And she grabbed my hand, and her hands were like ice, grabbed my hand and pretty much drugged me into what I guess would be like a parlor or a living room, I guess, and told me to
sit on the couch.
So I sat down on the couch. I had my little paper sack there, and I sat on the couch, and she said,
"Don't go anywhere and don't touch anything."
So I just sat there, and she disappeared into another room. She went through a doorway. I guess maybe it was the kitchen, I don't know. And she was in there for a few minutes, and I could hear some clattering around, and a few minutes later, she comes back in, and she's carrying like a TV tray, but it's just like the top part of it. There's no legs on it or anything. And she comes over to the couch where I'm sitting, and she lays this tray down on top of the coffee table. And she said,
"Take one."
And I looked down, and there was like 8 or 10 little like Dixie cups, little paper Dixie cups. And so I reached forward and I grabbed one, and I held it up, and I looked at it, and it was like red, thick liquid in the cup. And the first thing I thought of was, oh God, it's blood. And I'm sitting there staring at it, and she says,
"Drink it! Drink it now!"
So I hesitated. I didn't want to drink it, but I thought, if I don't drink it, I might have a worse fate in store for me. So I just took a drink and just drank it all down. And it wasn't bad. I think it was Kool-Aid, but I'm not sure. But it was sweet, I know that. And sorry, my camera got so excited that it just turned off. It was probably too scary for it. Anyway, after I got through drinking it, I set the cup back down on the tray, and she grabbed my hand again with her ice cold, bony fingers and jerked me up off of the couch and led me to the door and said,
"You can leave now."
She didn't have to tell me twice. I ran out the door, ran across the street, back up the steps to our apartment, and into the living room I went. I threw my bag down and I declared that that's the last time I'm ever going trick-or-treating. I don't know if I mentioned it in the last video or not, but when you went into our apartment, you went in the front door, straight ahead was the living room, and the TV set kind of in the corner. And that's where I was every afternoon between 4:30 and 5 to watch The Adventures of Superman. And behind that was the kitchen. And at night, if you went in there and turned the light on, it looked like we had a dark brown Formica countertop. But if you waited about a second and a half, all of that dark brown scurried away and into hidden places, because we had cockroaches, a huge supply of cockroaches. Anyway, back further, if you kept going, was our back porch. It was a covered porch set up probably 3 or 4 feet above the ground. And that's where my mother would find me almost every afternoon underneath that porch. And I'm only aware of this story because I've heard her tell it many times over the years. In the afternoons, I would go outside and disappear from view so that she couldn't see me. And she would go outside to find me, and she would always find me under the porch. And she would holler at me and say, "Michael, what are you doing under there?" And I would reply back,
"I'm eating spiders."
And she would always say, "Well, stop it and come out of there." Now, I don't know, I don't think my mother would lie about it, but I don't remember eating the spiders. But if I did, I'm pretty sure it was probably because we didn't have a lot of money. And as Mrs. McClooney said, my mother wasn't fixing me a nutritious lunch. So perhaps I needed some additional protein in my diet, maybe. Or maybe I just like the crunchy flavor of them, or the gooey, soft, gooey center. I don't know. But apparently I was a spider eater from a young age, and I don't know when I actually outgrew that desire for that type of cuisine, but I did, because I haven't eaten a spider in, God, weeks, maybe longer. So I think that's the end of that story. Now, next time, in the next video, or maybe the following one, I'm going to tell you about the old woodcarver with tuberculosis, and about our trip to the Forum cafeteria. And there may be another story in there too, so I haven't quite decided yet. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this story, or these 2 stories, and I hope you'll hit that subscribe button down there so you'll be alerted if you click the bell when I upload another video. And I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And I think that's it for now. So until I speak with you again, and even after that, you stay focused.